Coming up on Gameball NFL Endzone, Mike and I break down last week's football forecast in our first segment. In our second segment, the fight for futility continues. The Dolphins or Bengals? Will one or both go 0-16? Got a few overrated teams we're going to talk about in that second segment as well. The Cowboys, are on that list. And our third segment, as always, our football forecast. Coming up next, Gameball NFL Endzone. What's happening, everyone?
Welcome to Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. It's your boy, Michael Riley.
And I'm Luke Hartnett. Together we're holding it down for our brother Marcus Javale Jenkins. He's a baby boy, has a birthday today, so happy birthday.
Let's get it. Happy birthday. First segment, Week 6 forecast scoring recaps. Seahawks 32, Browns 28.
This game was pretty much what I thought it would be. I did not think the Seahawks would be down 20-6 in the first half. I did not see that coming. But Russell Wilson, get the guy a cape. I mean, get him a cape. Call him Superman. Call him Batman. Call him whatever superhero you want to. As long as he's a quarterback in that Seattle team, they're always going to have a chance.
Basically, that's what it came down to. Russell Wilson making plays, and he is right now in the leaderboards for being the NFL MVP.
He's got to be. He's got to be.
At least a small margin, but he has to be a leader for the MVP. Balling out. Offense was balling out. Defense, they gave up 28 points. They was down early, but they was able to find ways to make plays and force Cleveland to make bad decisions. Overall, they executed a good game plan in the second half, was able to roar back and get the win on the road.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense. That last Cleveland touchdown, they only gave up 8 points in the second half, and that was aided by Cleveland went for it on the 4th and goal at the 1, got stopped. Seattle gained no yards, had to kick from the end zone. They shanked the punt. Cleveland took over at the 23, so the defense was defending only a 23-yard field on the touchdown there. So they played much better the second half. That's kind of been the MO for them this whole year, though. They struggled the first half to Andy Dalton and the Bengals week 1. He kind of had a field day against them. The Thursday night matchup against the Rams, Goff kind of had his way with them as well. So Baker Mayfield, shout out to Cleveland. They really bounced back a lot better than I thought they would from their Monday night debacle against the 49ers. So they're on the right track. They're just not quite part of the league's elite yet.
Well, the Cleveland Browns, no excuses, had their chances to win this game.
Too many turnovers.
Exactly. You can't put this one on the referees. Yes, they blown calls, but at the end of the day, you are the players, and it's your job to execute.
All things being equal, Cleveland was the better team that particular day, just not on the scoreboard.
Yep, so that's their problem. They have to move on and look at the drawing board and just got to find ways to finish games.
You got the Patriots on deck this upcoming week, so no rest for the wicked. Moving on, Houston Texans 31, Kansas City Chiefs 24. Mike, go ahead and break this one down for us.
Well, the Chiefs got to a 17-0 start. Then I don't know what happened after that. They probably just hit a brick wall and did not much. They ain't run the ball effectively like they should. The last 2 games, the Chiefs' rush yards was 44. That's it. You have to run the ball effectively, and you can't rely on Patrick Mahomes to be the hero every single time to bail you out. Every once in a while, run the ball. And for Patrick Mahomes, he likes to throw it down the field. I get it, and he's the MVP for a reason. But sometimes you gotta live by the checkdowns. You know what I mean? It's just like he just didn't want it. He just wanted bomb. Like, just do a check down, get a first down, live another day. and I'm still critical on the defense. The defense played pathetic and piss poor, giving up over 100 yards rushing. Couldn't stop a daylight for nobody. Gave up too many big plays in the passing game, and Deshaun Watson was just carving them up left and right. And either the defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, has to adjust to today's game. And you can't do the same stuff that you used to do when you was with the Giants that won you 2 Super Bowls, and I get that. But we're far past that from now, and you have to adjust to today's game.
That Giants defense had Michael Strahan, Justin Tuck, Antonio Pierce. I'm probably forgetting 3 or 4 other impact players on that team too that Kansas City just doesn't have. I got a hot take. On this. I got a hot take, not just in the game, but in football in general here. This is my hot take. Kansas City would have been in the AFC Championship game last year with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. He wouldn't have put up the pinball numbers that Mahomes did. He wouldn't have had 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. He maybe would have all total yards, though. He's a little bit more of a runner than Pat Mahomes is. But if the Chiefs would have drafted him with that number 10 overall pick in the 2017 draft, they'd have been in last year's AFC Championship game. Would they have won? Maybe, maybe not. I love Pat. Pat's been a great pick. He was a deserving MVP last year. The brightest of futures ahead of him. But I don't think that the Chiefs would have been any better or worse last year with Deshaun Watson. And I'm not sure that they would be any better or worse this year with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, because I believe the two are that interchangeable. Deshaun Watson's a good player. He's a great, great player. Great quarterback.
And the Texans finally realized you have to have an offensive line to protect them. But one of them went down with the injury, the rookie that they drafted. Hopefully get heals up and get better. But either Steve Spagnuolo has to change his play calling on defense to adjust, or the Chiefs going to have him let him go. And I get it. They don't have the personnel. But come on, you have to put the players in the best position to succeed, like with Belichick. One reason why he's the best of all times, he never had big name players defensively. He has smart, versatile players that what he did, he adjusted to today's game. What he did back then, you no longer inside linebacker, outside linebacker, you just linebacker and would work with what's your strengths. If Steve Spagnuolo can work with players their strengths and play to their advantage, I think it'll be a little bit better.
The Chiefs need to get 4 quarters out of their offense too. They scored 0 points in the second half at Oakland, which is okay. They scored 28-10 at halftime. You kind of want to bleed the clock in the second half there. They scored 3 points in the second half against Indianapolis, and they only scored 1 touchdown against Houston. That second half, they had the ball 3 times, and outside of the touchdown, they had 2 3-and-outs. So the offense isn't getting it done for over a 4-quarter stretch either.
Yeah, the running game, this is when the running game has to come in.
Carlos Hyde, the Chiefs traded him to the Texans, there towards the end of preseason, ran over 100 yards on them. So that Chiefs D is needing improvement would be the understatement of all time right there. Should get better when Chris Jones gets back from injury, whenever that may be, though. And Frank Clark's got to find his footing at one point or another. But big one this Thursday night. They're at Denver. Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are going to be toting that rock plenty against them, and Kansas City got to get 4 quarters out of that offense to be able to compete. Moving on to our third recap here, we got the Philadelphia Eagles going to Minnesota and losing 38-20. And Mike, I had Philadelphia in this one. I didn't see this one coming.
I saw it coming, but not this bad. I picked the Minnesota because I think Minnesota Vikings was a little bit better running the ball with Dalvin Cook, who is balling out of his mind right now, but I was impressed with Kirk Cousins in the passing game. You got to give him just a little bit of credit, but he still got to prove me wrong. And Eagles, they're hurting on defense. Their secondary's banged up. Their defensive line's banged up. They just hurt all over the place. It's going to get tougher and tougher as weeks go. You got Dallas this coming up week. You can get a win there on the road. It's just, can they get their players back on defense healthy enough? If they can make a little splash, but
still got games against the Seahawks and Patriots on deck here for the next month or so too. Brutal stretch. But yeah, I touched on everything you said there. You said it. I couldn't have said it better. Minnesota, they actually beat Philadelphia last year as well. So remember, they lost to Philadelphia in the NFC Championship the year before that with Case Keenum at quarterback. They brought Kirk Cousins in to beat the Eagles. So Kirk Cousins, he's 2-0 against Philadelphia as a Minnesota Viking. So I guess it worked for them. I don't know. But struggling to see the rest of the league. But Minnesota trying to make it back to the playoffs for the first time since that NFC Championship run of theirs. Last but not least, San Francisco goes to LA and beats the Rams 20-7.
I got this one right. San Francisco, who you think they would be 5-0? Raise your hand. If you did, I want wherever it is you are on. Because right now, the San Francisco 49ers defensively, ooh. And after Nick Bosa got healthy and all that, he is balling. Richard Sherman's getting back healthy from that Achilles tear that he had when he was with Seattle. He's coming back to his healthy self. Overall, this defense is just clicking. Offensively, you got to give it up to Kyle Shanahan for calling good plays for Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49 offense to be successful at. The running game is excellent right now. They're playing physical, running the ball effectively, be consistent in the passing game. And Atlanta is regretting of letting him go because they are struggling offensively. I would have made him the highest paid offensive coordinator in history.
San Francisco. I mentioned last week they have a Monday night game on Veterans Day against Seattle. And both the Seahawks and the 49ers have wins over the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Browns. And I tell you what, the Seahawks beat the Bengals 21-20. They got them at home too. San Francisco went to Cincinnati, won 41-17. Monday Night Football, they played the Browns. They went 31-3. Seattle down 2 touchdowns, had to rally to beat the Browns by 4. So they both beat the Steelers by about 2 or 3 points apiece. But basically the only difference between those two teams right now is Seattle's played New Orleans, San Francisco is not yet anyway. But that's going to be an epic clash of the Titans on Monday night here in a month or so.
I can't wait to that matchup.
And hey, breaking news, the LA Rams traded a couple of first-round picks. They got Jalen Ramsey from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The news broke about this about maybe a half hour for the podcast, so we didn't really have it to lead too much there. But Jalen Ramsey now with Los Angeles Rams. The Rams also dealt Marcus Peters to the Baltimore Ravens as well. So the Rams are a 3-game losing streak. They are 3-3 after a 3-0 start. Maybe the Super Bowl hangover took a little while longer to get back there. But San Francisco, you mentioned their defense. They're just playing so well. Not making Garoppolo have to win games for them. Just, you term all the time, game manager. But when you got a solid defense, that's all you got to be.
Exactly. That would do it for the first segment. Coming back on Gameball NFL Endzone. Segment number 2. Which winless team will go 0-16 between the Bengals and the Dolphins? And which teams are overrated? The Browns, Rams, Cowboys, we'll talk about that coming back up on Gameball NFL Endzone where the football season never ends.
You know who he thinks overrated? What's happening, everyone?
Welcome back to Gameball NFL Endzone where the football season never ends. Second segment, first part. Which winless team will go 0-16 between the Bengals and Dolphins?
They do play December 22nd. That's week 16 of the season. Both teams would be 0-14 going into that, presumably. I think the team that's more likely to be the Dolphins, though, just because I think, I mentioned our first segment, the Bengals, they lost by 1 to Seattle week 1. They just lost by 6 to Baltimore this past weekend. They've at least been semi-competitive. The Dolphins, unless they're playing the Redskins, they've just been getting beat in record fashion. I think the Bengals and Browns play December 8th and December 29th. I think the Bengals find a way to weasel out at least a split against the Browns, and I think that the Bengals would win the head-to-head against Miami.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. They know they suck, but they still trying. They got ammo with this year's and next year's first-round picks and a whole bunch of picks coming up.
Glad to see they went for 2 against Washington over the week instead of kicking to an extra point for overtime.
Exactly. And the Bengals, it wouldn't surprise me if both teams ended with a tie. I'm just saying, it would be nice to go see 2 teams have the same losing record with a tie. It would be hilarious. But more likely it'd be the Dolphins.
2-0-15-1 teams. That'd be great.
I know. All right, next one. Which of these teams is overrated? The Browns, Rams, or the Cowboys?
I got to go with the Rams on this one. A 3-game losing streak after going to the Super Bowl last year. They had a Week 2 win over the Saints as well. I know Drew Brees got hurt early on in that game. I know the Saints had a defensive return for touchdown in that game called back due to a dead whistle or a blown, no pun intended, a blown whistle, a blown call. But yeah, when they were 3-0, they were just looking like the bee's knees there. And if Zierlein hits the field goal against Seattle, they'd have been perhaps a little more competitive in that San Francisco game the following week for them. But they just gave up 55 to the Buccaneers, missed a field goal to the Seahawks that would have won, and just weren't competitive in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Lucky to only lose 20-7, to be honest with you. They just got manhandled that game.
Well, the Browns will be the 3rd overrated team because they was predicted to go at least to AFC Championship game, and that's not happening. Their record says what they are, and I think, in my opinion, Freddie Kitchens should not have got that head coaching job, to be honest with you. I mean, he could make a good head coach Sunday, but my opinion right now, he wasn't ready and it shows. Number 2, the Rams. You go to the Super Bowl and you lost, and ever since then, you haven't looked like the same Rams team. You have Todd Gurley out, of course, dealing with injuries. Akeem Talib on defense was just put on IR. Jalen Ramsey is coming to you guys from a trade, so that should boost your defense up big time. So it's just offensively, is Jared Goff a system quarterback of Sean McVay, or has the NFL finally figured out the Rams offense?
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that before you get to your number 1 there. About a week or 2 ago, it was brought to my attention that defenses were kind of tipped off that McVay was basically reading the defense of the opponent before while he was still had Goff in his, was still in Goff's ear. Well, somehow or another, teams have found out about that, and what you're seeing a lot of teams not line up in their defensive set until they know that McVay is no longer calling the play. And then about right before the snap of the ball, you're seeing a lot more safety movement, a lot more linebacker movement, and Goff's having to do a lot more breakdowns and recognition on the fly, where he's not having to play right out against the standing defense for him. So there's a little bit of a gamesmanship going on there.
And the number 1 overrated team, them Cowboys. This is why I said the Dallas Cowboys are a bad luck in the making, and you said the Dallas Cowboys are
America's 8-8 team.
Exactly, because that little black cat from the pet cemetery keeps coming out from the grave and just keeps cursing the Dallas Cowboys. So something that goes good, like for instance, they were 3-0. We done boys, we're going to the Super Bowl. Blah, blah, blah. And you play the teams that haven't made it to the playoffs in years. Then when you start playing the teams that have been to the playoffs, at least 2 of them, the Saints you wet the bed against, the Packers you wet the bed against, and the 0-4 previous Jets you really wet the bed against.
To be fair, I think the Saints and Packers are just better teams than the Cowboys are. But the Jets.
I know, right? And what the hell was Jason Garrett doing going for it on 4th and 2 instead of kicking the field goal, which they could have won the game by 1 point if they would just kick the field goals? But no, he has to be aggressive and try to go it in, which you don't have your 2 offensive tackles that are dealing with injuries. Now, if you had your 2 starting offensive tackles healthy in the game, I understand that. But no, you just take the points, get the win, and call it a day. And this point 4, Halloween hit early for the Dallas Cowboys, and their hopes and dreams in the playoffs is going downhill. And that will do it for the second segment. Third segment, forecast, Week 7 matchup predictions. Let's get it on. Gameball NFL Endzone where the football season never ends. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball NFL Endzone where the football season never ends. Third segment, Week 7, forecast, matchups, and predictions. Minnesota Vikings versus Detroit Lions in the NFC North battle. Break it down.
The Vikings, they ever since they had a little internal, malfunction there in the locker room a couple weeks ago with that 16-6 loss to the Bears, rebounded, looked good against the Giants, won 28-10, won 38-20 against the Eagles. Got some good traction going on there. As always, whenever these two hook up, it's going to be in a dome. And the Detroit Lions, they have to be the most snake-bit team in the history of the league. You look at that Chiefs game from a few weeks ago where they lost 34-30. They let Mahomes convert a 4th and 8 by running for it. They gave up a let's just say that 100-yard fumble return is something you don't see every day. And they blew an 18-point lead week 1 to the Cardinals and ultimately ended in a 27-27 tie. The Packers game, as I mentioned, this Monday night, they couldn't get a call to go their way. Minnesota, they're starting to really find their traction. I think Cousins is finally starting to make his money there.
Minnesota is leaning more towards the run. And that's what they have been, and that's how they should. But you start seeing Kirk Cousins make a little bit more plays in the passing game, being a little bit consistent. If he can do that, minimize the turnovers and mistakes, then this offense is keep it rolling. And their defense is playing stout right now. Let's just say what it is. Playmakers all over the field balling and all this other stuff. Detroit, they just can't get a break. They was in 2 games that they should have won, and one of them could have won. The Chiefs, they should have won, and the Cardinals, in on the tie. It is what it is. So Detroit has to go back to the drawing board. You can't dwell on the bad calls. You have to move on from it and just learn and watch film from it. Because earlier you was aggressive against the Packers, throwing flea flickers passes down the field, just taking big shots, but it seems like they were only capitalizing on field goals except for that 1 touchdown to Kerryon Johnson, and you have to get him more involved in the running game because 34 yards rush is not going to cut it. So run the ball more and take some pressure off Matthew Stafford. They'll be all right. All right, Houston, Texas versus the Indianapolis Colts. AFC battle showdown in the South. Let's get it.
The Colts getting to get the team game at home here. Much like the Lions and Vikings, the games usually played in the dome. I guess they both got a retractable roof. They almost always have them closed anymore, though. Big game here. Last 2 weeks, both teams have gone to Kansas City and won. I believe the Colts were off this past week. Mm-hmm. They're going to be at home 2 weeks to get ready. Good matchup here. Jacoby Brissett's kind of holding the fort down at quarterback for him. Looking like a good feeling for Andrew Luck. Might be the long-term answer for him there. We know Houston has their long-term answer at quarterback. Going to be a good one. These the 2 teams played in the wild card. They split the regular season last year with the road team winning each game. And Houston won the division, so they got the game at home in the wild card. The home team went 0-3 when these two got together last year. Just kind of unusual, and one of those unusual stats for you.
Battle for the AFC South first place crown. The Texans versus the Colts, and it's going to be a good one. But it's going to come down to, can the Colts defense do enough to contain the Texans offense? Because we saw what they did last week against the Chiefs. When they were down, they came roaring back. So the Colts defense has to stop the running game, force Texas offense to be one-dimensional. If you can do that, and the offense of the Colts can be consistent, run the ball and get some completions in the passing game, they get touchdowns, they can win at home.
Yeah, a big game for the division here. With the Titans have kind of fallen off the face of the earth the last few weeks here, and the Jaguars, traded Jalen Ramsey to the Rams. So winner of this one's going to have a big leg up in the division.
All right, the Saints against the Bears in Soldier Field. Break it down.
All right, the Saints still don't have Drew Brees back. Going to be an outdoor game at Soldier Field in Chicago, as you mentioned. The Saints are kind of catching a break. It's not December. You got that dome team playing outdoors. This is about the latest time of the year you want to be doing that, especially up north. Mm-hmm. And the Bears, last time we saw them, they were getting beat by the Raiders in London. I did not see that one coming.
Me neither. But I think the Bears were able to get adjustments done defensively, because that was not the Bears defense that we're accustomed to seeing. And one of their biggest players, Akeem Nixon, is on IR with an elbow injury. Could come back, but we don't know. So that's a big loss for them. So they got to find a way to fill that void. But you still got Khalil Mack, who's one of the best defenders in the game. You still got an elite secondary, and you still got an elite linebacker. So if they could bounce back on defense to stop the Saints offense, that's going to be the battle, and they can win this game. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys NFC East showdown.
Yeah, both teams coming off of a loss here. I know you got the Cowboys as your number one most overrated team, but the funny thing is, with the Redskins and Giants, as abysmal as they are, they win Sunday night at home against Philadelphia. They're back in first place. So it's like that 3-game losing streak never happened for them. Philadelphia, the secondary is subpar, below average, if you will, trying to be nice here. And I know Amari Cooper, he did not finish the game against the Jets over the weekend, so I don't know what his status is going to be. I could see a lot of Randall Cobb in that game for the Cowboys. Prescott's going to be throwing, tight end Jason Witten's way. They got a nice little receiver there, Michael Gallup, who I really like a lot too. But Amari Cooper, if he's good to go, I think the Cowboys have a better than average chance to win.
Well, for the Philadelphia Eagles, they have to bounce back. They got to go back to the drawing board and learn from their mistakes, because right now, I would say they're in trouble if the Dallas Cowboys would have won at least 2 of their games. But they're tied. They're in the mix. So if, like I was saying earlier in the first segment, if defensively they can come back from injuries and find a way to stay healthy, they can compete. Offensively, you just got to find your flow and find a way to score points. And Deshaun Jackson, we don't know when he's coming back for his injury. That's their Achilles heel, not having the person that can vertically stretch the field. When he comes back, I don't know. So they just got to find a way and run the ball more and get Howard more involved in the running game as well as the passing game.
Philadelphia has beaten the Packers and the Jets. The Cowboys have not. So some common opponents leading the Philadelphia Eagles' way there. All right, scores and predictions. Vikings at Lions. Who you got in this one?
I got the Vikings. They're playing good ball. Offense, defense, and special teams. And Detroit, wrong place, wrong time. So I'm going to say the Minnesota Vikings gets the win on the road against Detroit. I'm going to say 31-14. Minnesota gets it
Minnesota
done.
big, huh? Okay, I'm going the other way on this one. I got the Lions 24-20. I think they make it a grinded-out game. I think they try to ride Kerryon Johnson. Matt Stafford, he's, staying healthy, which was kind of a bugaboo for him his first, 3 to 5 years in the league or more. But they got to break through at some point or another. I know they got the road win at Philadelphia a few weeks ago, but between the Cardinals game and the Kansas City Chiefs game, and most recently the Packers on Monday night, they got to get a win. They got to get a win against a good team. They're at home. Familiar opponent, division opponent. I'm going with the Lions 24-20.
All right, Houston, Texas, Indianapolis, Coach. Who you got?
I'm a Deshaun Watson guy. I'm going with the Texans in this one. Houston might get a bye in the AFC playoffs this year. They really might be the second best team. Them and the Patriots both won their divisions last year, so they will play head to head at some point later on in the season. I'm not sure which week that is or even who the home team is. just know that the matchup is going to happen. Everything I just said about the Lions and liking home teams and division matchups and everything else, I just think the quarterback play, that Vikings game, I think, Stafford and Cousins are almost interchangeable. Deshaun Watson, I think, no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, he's playing admirably, but Deshaun Watson, he's on another plane right now. So I'm going to go Houston in this one, 30-20.
Well, I'm going to go with the Colts, and I'm sticking by my original pick for them to win the AFC South. Now, some of their players on defense is injured, but they play excellent against the Chiefs to win on the road. So I'm going to keep rolling that train. I think Frank Wright will find a way to sneak it out at the end. He's aggressive. If it's like 4-1 in the midfield, he's playing to win. And that's what I like about the coach. And he's getting the players to win, buy into the system, and all this other stuff. And Justin Houston came up big against the Chiefs with those 2 critical sacks and forced fumble. So I'm going to ride with the Colts in a very close, tight game. I'm going to say on a late field goal, Adam Vinatieri gets it done. I'm going to say 24-21, the Colts over the Texans. The Saints, the Bears, who you got?
Even without Drew Brees, even without home field, I'm going to go with the Saints in this one. They just something about it. They just seem to manage to keep pulling ways out. They had a 6-6 game in the fourth quarter against Jacksonville. Managed to score a touchdown, won 13-6. Had that 12-10 win over the Cowboys. They went to Seattle and won. Ran a punt back for a touchdown. Ran a fumble back for a touchdown. Kamara, he's got that running game and that passing game for the most part going for him as well. Just hard for me to buy the Bears after they lost to the Raiders. And the Raiders have come a long way. They're actually a very formidable football team. If Kansas City doesn't get it turned around, and Raiders might sneak around and win that division. But got to go with the Saints in this one. It's going to be an ugly game. I'm going to go 16-13 New Orleans.
I'm going to go with the Bears. They had that bad loss taste in their mouth. And I feel like defensively, they'll step up. And whoever is blocking Khalil Mack, good luck. You're going to need some prayers. So, and offensively, they just going to do just enough to find a way to win and get it done and score some points. So I'm going to say the Bears win a very close tight one. I'm going to say 17-14, the Bears defensively gets it done. The Philadelphia Eagles versus them Cowboys. Who you got?
I think Carson Wentz is the better quarterback. I think Doug Peterson's the better head coach. 9 times out of 10, you got the better coach-quarterback combination, you win. Going to be a Sunday night game at Dallas. I know Dallas swept them last year. I got to go Philadelphia in this one. I'm going to go Eagles 27-20 in this one. I think the Cowboys keep it close. They may have the lead at one point or another in the second half, maybe a 13-10 lead, maybe a 20-17 lead, but they got the Eagles by a touchdown.
I'm a roll with them Eagles. Fly over that pitiful star of the Dallas Cowboys. Like I said before, the bad luck is going to continue happen. They're going to get cursed, and their playoff host is going to be done. It's going to be over. They're going to go 8-8, just like you said. America's 8-8 coming soon to movies near you. So I'm going to say the Eagles get it done. They'll find a way to bounce back after an ugly loss. If they could get some of their players back on defense, they could get it done. So I'm going to say 30-20, the Eagles gets it done.
Cowboys, they have a bye week after this. Then they have to go to the New York Giants. I understand they beat the Giants week 1 fairly handily. Oh, Daniel Jones, yeah, he's firmly entrenched as a starter there. I know the Giants lost by 3 touchdowns to the Patriots this past week on Thursday night. That really wasn't a 3-touchdown game. They kind of showed really well against the Patriots for the most part in there. I thought Daniel Jones only had the 1 touchdown thrown for them. I believe they had a defensive score as well. But that's not going to be a gimme for the Cowboys either. And a few other games I want to point out. This is how big the football forecast for this week is. We usually get the Chiefs in here, but they play on Thursday night. Due to editing purposes, we don't always have the podcast out by Thursday. But they're in a big one at the Broncos. If the Broncos hit field goals the Jaguars and Bears both hit field goals at the gun to beat the Broncos this year. They could easily be 4-2 versus 2-4. They could be a huge game otherwise. The Ravens, they're at the Seahawks. We are not covering that one. That's how big this forecast is for us. And the low-key big-time game that we're not talking about, the Raiders, they're at the Packers this Sunday. So a lot of good football out there. So it was we each picked 2 games apiece. This was the hardest week for me to pick 2 games out of the NFL schedule. A lot of good games there. That's going to wrap up the football forecast for us here. Go ahead, find me on social media. I'm on Facebook at Luke Hartnett. That's HARTNETT. Find me on Twitter at the same name at Luke Hartnett 2.
You can find me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Gmail, all on this side where it says it at, to your left side. Also, get your merchandise on our new clothing line website, gameballshop.ecwid.com. That's gameballshop.ecwid.com. And we can't forget our other brother who couldn't be here today. You can follow Marcus Young Genius Jenkins at Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Jovel_ENT, all in one word. I'm Michael Riley.
And I'm Luke Hartnett.
This is Gameball NFL Endzone, where the football season never ends. Peace. We are out, and see you next week.